Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. It is Saturday, December 6th, 2025, a little after 10 a.m. So let's get started. Let's see if we have any questions. We did not meet last week because of the holiday. So here we are. It's been a couple weeks now. Let's see if we have any questions from anybody, anything that catches your attention. Thoughts, questions?
Um, I kind of hope that there would have been more people on because I want to look at some of the things that we haven't looked at, and that is, but not looked at. I mean, had not looked at in depth in a minute, and I wanted to give a deeper understanding of libations and the whole concept of our relationship with the ancestors. However, if there are questions from the last time we met or from anything that that's you've seen that you want to understand more clearer, then I will kind of we'll yield to those questions and see what comes. Okay. Um,
I do have questions.
okay.
It's not what we recently talked about, but the question I have, what um what is the spirit? I know we talked about um how the well, I'm just gonna say, what is the spiritual aspects of a menopause? Because when it's presented to us, they say this is how your body gonna go, and this. So they're looking at from the physical side. Because it got to be something spiritual. Because when you look at the woman's cycle, it's more. We had talked about seeing it from a different perspective, not looking at it as neglect for it, just seeing it in a different. Just changing your thoughts of how we experience what we experience. So when it comes to the menopause, what is the spiritual things and how we should look at it differently instead of with how they tell us that we should.
Um, one of the things that women endure, especially from a male-dominated society, is being ashamed of a cycle or regretting it or complaining about it, as well as menopause itself. Um, Anyone could jump in when they get ready. However, uh, menopause speaks to the period in a female's life when she is approaching the time when she will no longer bear children. And while there are rare exceptions, most of the time that is the case. And the way I have viewed menopause based on looking at it from some other cultures is that if we look at it spiritually, it is the femininity of this female is moving from a stage of giving birth physically to a place where she becomes an elder, elder in that the guidance of the wisdom of the female elders in the village in the community begins to take place, and she uh, begins to what can I say? become a part of those elders who has gone before her, and she receives from them an understanding of what feminine eldership looks like. So that's pretty much it for me, unless someone has anything else.
Hey everyone, this is Nick. I might be able to, just from uh, my perspective, in general, like we're always in a process of transition, and at no point, during our physical life is our uh, sort of growth process ever stopped. We basically just go through periods where it appears to happen quicker, and periods where it appears to happen slower. But in of my mind, it's kind of like the downslope of puberty. So when we go through puberty, we're going through a energetic and physical transformation. And menopause and whatever the a male equivalent of it is sort of the opposite of puberty. It's like the downslope. As your body uh, sort of reduces its uh, sort of need or capacity to engage in all the physical processes that we, need when we're younger and in adulthood, as we move towards the eventual leaving of the body itself when we make our transition. So it's just kind of like a little bit like you have an upslope and then a downslope, and the energetic transformation and physical transformation that is part of the downslope as we sort of wind down or slow down is menopause for women, and then whatever equivalent or rough equivalent of that for men that there is. Thank you.
I I I,
Thank you.
I like what Pastor and Nick said. I think I look at it as uh, Angela first came on and she talked about it, the question. We see everything with women as being something negative, or we've been taught that it's, and I think Pastor touched on that. What if it's just a way of keeping balance in there? It's in a way. Uh, it's a movement of energy. It's a transforming of energy from one stage to the next. And I don't know what else to say. I just don't see it as something negative. Especially since I was trying to think of something that was in the spiritual, the spirit of intimacy, a little book that I love so much. Uh, I see it as something positive. I see it as something worthy of celebrating that helps bring balance into the earth. If you can say that a woman's cycle is connected to the phases of the moon or whatever happened, then so must this be connected in a way. So I see it as helping to bring balance, and not only to her life, but to the life in the universe that she has created. And I, I guess I don't have any examples of that, but I just don't see it as anything negative.
Oh, it's not. It's not. It's not at all. Someone's about to say something.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Grand Rising family, honor to the ancestors. Professor, I think that men go through menopause also, but they experience it different than we do. Well, you guys experience different than we do. We express our hot flashes and everything else that we're dealing with, but a lot of times men suppress theirs. Am I not correct with that?
I don't know about the hot flashes, but I do know there is a male equivalent of menopause, but I don't know exactly what it is, because I have not looked at it from spiritual cultures. Um, but I have looked at menopause from the female perspective in spiritual from the spiritual other spiritual cultures, and it's always an awakening to a state of becoming wiser. Uh, and the transformation, as Nick talked about, is being transformed from a life that is attuned to what ego and it's simply a passageway. Now with men menopause, man, I don't know I don't know how to explain that, but I will say this: there is also an equivalent of a prostate in a woman. I don't know the name of it. I don't remember the name of it, but I know it's there. And I think that Nick is probably searching for male menopause. Am I right, Nicholas?
Now you are.
Okay.
Well, I know men, I don't know, but men may not have the same symptoms as we do, but it's got to be, it can't, women are always under the microscope. We always, you know,
Well, I
have
don't see it.
neck,
I
yeah.
don't see it as much
So,
as a woman being under a microscope, Evan. And the reason I say that is because men don't, when you put something under a microscope, you're studying it. And masculine in this type of society, a male-dominated society, women are not studied to understand them at all. Everything they do, as Ron said, is just simply pronounced as negative, and because a male said it, that's exactly what it becomes. So I don't think you're under a microscope at all.
but I used the
There,
wrong word, and you're
okay,
right. Yes.
there
Thank
is
you.
you're quite welcome. If men was having breast cancer at the rate that females have it, then we would have some type of cure or some type of method to treat breast cancer better than we do now. So that I see that same thing about menopause as well. Not I don't see menopause as something that has to be treated, and there is a natural root that what is it that females they made a tea from it for females who was going through menopause and they did not have the experiences of the hot flashes, the irritability, those kinds of things during when they went through menopause. I'm trying to remember. It's been 100 years since I heard mention of it, but there is something they made a tea from that eases the journey through menopause than what it is uh, currently.
So
Pastor Reed, are you talking about I was going to say I know they got a red clover and black, what is it, black cohosh and some other stuff too, herbs they have too.
Well, I don't know about those because the name, if it was mentioned, I'll remember it. But that didn't trigger me. But it's something that I remember from hearing it when I was much younger.
You
So
can think of
Pastor,
it.
Grand Rising fam. Oh, sorry, Ron. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to tell him if he can think of it. I think it'd be beneficial if it comes to you later.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
No, I just had a question. As we look at male menopause, is ED part of that? And if that is the case, for a man, that's something that, for a lot of men, from what I've understood, that's something that's shameful, and that would explain why there's no name given to part of their cycle. Like we have a name, menopause, that they named it, but no one named anything that a male goes through. But if that is part of the cycle with a man, would that be possibly a reason why there's not a lot of attention given to it, because there is an element of shame for that man there, even though it shouldn't be, but there is.
I I, I want to speak to that. But go. I'll let you go first, Nick.
and thank you, Janice, for saying this as well. But yeah, I was just looking it up. Sometimes referred to as andropause, but I don't know if that's like an official term. It's like it's there's sort of an equivalent, but it is not as dramatic because I think in general the changes that women's bodies go through is more pronounced than males. But yes, like erectile dysfunction, lowering of testosterone, etc., are all characteristic of getting older as a man. So it's sometimes referred to as andropause, but it's not necessarily as like a as distinct a transition in some cases as menopause can be, but it is part of the process of that downslope where your testosterone lowers, and then everything associated with that. Thanks, man.
Um, I agree with Nick in terms of the lowering of the testosterone. However, ED is more pronounced or more prevalent in Western societies than it is in Eastern societies. And ED is also more prevalent with European males than it is with other males of other collections of people. In Western societies, it's very difficult to look at ED and see it as a part of male menopause, not because it doesn't happen, but because what we are beginning to see is that ED began much earlier in males now, especially the Caucasian males. You have males who are between the ages of 25 and 40 who are dealing with ED. And by the time they get 40, 45, it's over. When I say over it, they are in a full-blown states of having erectile dysfunction. And the large portion of erectile dysfunction is based upon how you treat your body and the food that you put in your body. Most of the testosterone in males today is toxic testosterone, and the toxicity of it comes from the chemicals that is found in foods. The overly processed foods begins to poison the testosterone, and when the testosterone is toxic, then the vessels that carries the blood to the penis for an erection is clogged, and it is more difficult for men to get and maintain an erection because all of it is based upon blood flow. The majority of it, rather, is based on blood flow. But there is a mental aspect to ED as well. Um, if your desire, if you don't feel a emotional desire to engage in intercourse, then it is more difficult to maintain an erection with toxic testosterone. And the current medications that are out there for that, what they actually do um, is um, is create a stronger blood flow that enhances an erection and holds it for a temporary time. However, these same medications are very dangerous of high blood pressure, cardiac problems are increased with it. Not to mention the fact that if a man is on a regimen of those medications, then it gets to the place where it begins to deteriorate the vessels I'm sorry, it begins to poison the testosterone as does the pills. I mean the toxins in the food does, and it makes the efforts to maintain an erection even harder than what it was prior to going on those pills. There are cultures in this earth where males are still uh, uh, um, able to perform intercourse without problems at the age of 80 or 90 years old. It depends on the not only the culture, but when I say culture, when I talk about culture, I'm also talking about the food that you ingest in the environment that you live in. So, the whole concept of ED versus male menopause, it is a part of it, but it is not the totality of it. And again, is because of what we are experiencing. And the reason I know that ED is prevalent, especially in younger men, is because I've done counseling with men who's going through ED, dealing with ED. I've done counseling with females whose husbands or boyfriends are experiencing ED, and they are much younger. And when they talked about the toxicity of it, I know that there has to be a part of it because I I never heard about ED, especially in younger men, when I was younger. And there are men who are older, who are still able to perform or to have a performative erection is the best way I could put it, and without problems. However, it doesn't mean that they are as virulent as they were when they were younger, but there are periods when they are able to engage in intercourse, but not as often as they were when they were much younger. Does that help, Kathy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
If I can add something too, uh, men, Pastor, are not as physically active as they used to be. That also has something to do with it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a large part of it when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Exercise,
Yeah.
um, and alcohol,
And yeah.
smoking, um, sugar, salt. There are so many things that people in what we call um, modern worlds engage in that are detrimental to the physical aspects of the body and inhibits the way the body performs. And also, Ron, you can look at the males, young males are not the height of young males and the strength of their bodies is totally different than what it used to be. You cannot expect your body to develop and to maintain the testosterone levels that it normally would sitting in the house all day long playing video games.
Yes.
It's just not going to happen. And 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 what happens is when your focus and and your what are the hormones that creates pleasure? Um,
Dopamine.
your dopamine is wasted or used, rather, I ain't gonna say wasted, but used playing video games, uh, Call to Duty, or it is. So what happens is your mindset does not really lend itself to really caring about engaging in intimacy when you are so caught up on a video game until you start playing it when you get off from work at 5 o'clock in the evening and you start playing the video game at 12:30 at night and go to bed and get up next morning and do the same thing the next day. The other part of it is that men don't understand, seemingly, how much dopamine is utilized when they're watching a football game, especially if they have a so-called team that is playing, and it's an exciting game. There are a lot of, as I said earlier, variables involved in maintaining uh, the testosterone levels. Um, I was looking at some time ago, I think it was about 8 months ago, maybe longer. I was looking at some statistics about birth rates and how birth rates were dropping. And one of the major reasons that birth rates are dropping is because of the lack of mental interest and physical acuity for males to engage in intercourse, especially European males. The dopamine is used up primarily with European males uh, being excited about making money, being excited about power. It takes dopamine in order to rise to the level of a Hegseth with the amount of dopamine that he used when he was standing in front of those generals was tremendous because of the pleasure that he derived from being able to lord himself over men who were all considered some of the most powerful men in earth when it comes to military tacticians. So anyway, we could talk about this for a while because it this is the best known secret is about males and their lack of virility, and women gets the blame for not being able to become impregnated when in actuality it is primarily males who has a problem being able to perform long enough for things for that to take place. Because not only am I seeing that, but I'm also seeing through counseling and my readings is that males not only are they the testosterone less, they don't perform as long. And what I mean by that is they reach a climax in 5 to 10 minutes. And most of the time the female has not reached that climax. And not and then also these younger males when they are engaging in intercourse, not only do they reach a climax in very short periods of time, but they also are are, are not able to maintain an erection for a longer period of time.
I think some of it is ignorance too. We don't recognize our body's functions and capabilities, I guess, because in males, uh, at around age 40, your body starts reducing the amount of testosterone that it creates naturally, and uh, it starts creating more estrogen, which is the female mainly associated with as a female hormone. Uh, so if you are unaware of that, uh, that too, if you're already physically inactive, if you're not eating the right diets, all of these things can become a factor when you put them all together. Uh, and the other one is when you panic or whatever and start taking uh, artificial means of testosterone, it tells your body, okay, this is coming in through another source. I don't have to produce this anymore. So that can have an adverse effect on your body. So just a number of factors. I think I'm just glad we're talking about this.
Well, and when there is a reduction in the minerals that's necessary for to maintain erection and foods. When you talk about, for example, one of the things, primary thing is zinc.
Hmm.
So there and taking um, artificial minerals from vitamins also has an adverse effect on you. Can have an adverse effect as well. The also dehydration. Dehydration reduces the level of testosterone that is produced in the body.
Hmm.
It's funny how we started talking about estrogen and ended up talking about testosterone. Go ahead, Renee.
I was going to say, as you alluded to earlier, it is entirely true that if men could get pregnant, abortion would have been legalized 200 years ago.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and that would have been a fight to make sure that abortion stays legal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the reason the conversation always goes back to testosterone in terms of our society and politics is just because of the uh, overwhelming ego of the men in power um, involved. So women's bodies are more complex. But the unwillingness to empathize with the experience of womanhood is exactly what keeps the focus sort of in a purely male oriented direction.
Yeah.
In terms of what we see play out. Anyway, thank you.
All right, Nick, to dovetail on that, when you're more interested in things that make you feel good, releasing dopamine, than you are in the female. For example, the Super Bowl is on, and your team is up, and then the game is tied, and the other team is driving down the field, and she comes in and say, "I want to talk with you." Not now, baby, not now. And she touches you, and you pushes her hand away and say later. You are using dopamine dealing with this game, and you are not interested in whether she wants to talk about buying groceries next week or whether she wants to talk about being intimate with you at that moment. Either one of those, you have rejected that, and now you're paying the price for it and don't realize it. I just uh, I've been I read everything I can based on this, and the reason is because of the huge number of males at such a young age who are unable to perform. It is becoming a real issue in society, and I well, let's just talk about the taboo that's involved with that. Maybe that's a taboo. I don't know. Um, Women are left starving because a man peaks sexually much earlier than a woman does. A woman peaks sexually around 50 years old. A man does it around what, 30, 25, 30 years old, maybe?
I thought it was early 20s or something.
Yeah, so isn't
I wanted to mention something else just related to how we see this play out in society as well. But did someone
go
else
ahead,
have?
Nick. Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think there are many reasons for this. Just the relationship between men and women, and within the context of sort of very materialistic, sort of ego-driven, sort of society. Anyway, but I think about this all the time. There was an experiment. Um, I forget the name of it. It wasn't Rat Park. Rat Park is like another one. It was an experiment involving rats, I believe. But they basically they sectioned off different groups of rats, and they gave one section all the material wealth equivalent of whatever a rat thinks is material wealth, all the food, all the uh, access to sex, etc., that it could possibly want. And eventually, those rats, it's funny to think about it in terms of rats, but those rats kind of burnt out. They lost their desire for everything. They lost their desire for food, sex, sort of integrating with the greater rat society. Like the rest of the rats that were given a more normal distribution of resources behaved normally. Their sort of society was more like harmonious in terms of the relationships between the male and the female rats and just the whole dynamic. Whereas the ones that burnt out their dopamine receptors, basically because they were given everything they want all the time, became lethargic, became had zero sex drive, became prone to more violence, etc. So I always think about that when I think about the dynamic that plays out in society when we are constantly given things that trigger dopamine that we can burn out much quicker. So, for example, the football game taking up more of your attention, that's just another form of, as it is been called, the sort of bread and circuses that are fed to people to sort of keep them entertained and distracted from something. But it has the effect of monopolizing your attention via overloading you with sort of dopamine or whatever else is involved with the sort of pleasure and the satisfaction of ego. And it turns you into a zombie, essentially. It dulls your ability to interface with the other nuances of human interaction and communication and stuff. And unless you find a way to, as it has been called, sort of to detox yourself from the dopamine that's constantly being, well, we're constantly being given things that is designed to flood our brains with dopamine. Every advertisement is an attempt to do that, for example. If you can find a way to detox yourself from that sort of overload, then you can work to rebuild your nervous system essentially and become more sensitive to those more subtle things about interactions with not only yourself but other people, and then the dynamic between men and women overall in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. I think one of the things we've said in a roundabout way is that one of the most dangers to the production of testosterone, or may I say it another way, one of the things that promotes ED more than anything else is ego. Because ego is dopamine driven. And that is everything from a football game to a job.
Yeah.
And I guess we use football because it's one of the most popular sports in the country, but it could be any sport or any game or anything. I tell you something else that promotes ED too, that results in ED, and that is huge dosage of porn. Because you expend a lot of dopamine when you spend all your time watching porn, and especially if you are watching porn and you're not engaging in physical intercourse, you're just simply watching porn as an addiction. Because there are people who say that's not addictive. Anything that's dopamine driven can be addictive, no matter what it is.
I have another question.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. You were going to speak to this. I was going so in a different place. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to what Nick said. So what Nick described in the study that was done with the rats, is that not kind of the same plight of the European? Because with the white privilege, especially with white privilege of males, they've been given everything basically that they want. They've grown bored. They've grown tired of just what would appear to be just the normal things in life, and that could explain why that population is experiencing ED at a higher rate than any other population. Because what I heard in that is when you're given everything you could ever possibly want, you lose interest in everything. And it could also explain, well, I don't even know if I want to go there. I don't think I'm going to go there right now. But could that be part of the factor of what we're seeing with them and the medical response their bodies are having to haven't been given everything?
Agree. Yeah. Speaking of black men trying to be European, I just watched that
Thank
Diddy
you.
documentary.
Yeah,
I just
that's
watched
it.
that Diddy documentary. Like you could watch. There's reasons, all kind of reasons he is the way he is. But yeah, you burn out and you become more extreme as a result of what you're literally, you dull your senses with the amount of sort of addictive is trying to satisfy your addiction constantly. And in terms of the overall sort of materialist mindset, if you are under the belief that all there is and the whole purpose for existing is simply to accumulate material things and to experience material pleasure, then you move in that direction as quickly as possible, because that's the only purpose, that you conceive of for existing. And then that potentially happens much more quickly. And I think there's a lot more to how this works psychologically and how it plays out. But that is, I think, the basic underlying principle of the attempting to feed your addiction to material sensation and what it does to you. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hello? Oh, okay. Since we're talking about masturbation and porn and whatever, so what
Well, I
about
said
the
about no
script? Can you
masturbation.
explain? Well, it's part of it. You didn't say it, but it's part of it. But, but, but anyway, Pastor Jay, my question is, what about this? Can you explain the scripture that talks about if a man wastes his seed or something like that?
Oh, you're
That
talking about
scripture.
spilling the seed on the ground.
Yes, sir.
That has nothing to do with physical masturbation. That is, I think, is in Deuteronomy, where it talks about it being a sin for a man to spill his seed on the ground. That's speaking more to the consciousness of the earth. For example, men who waste all of their time trying to be Europeans, African men or European men waste all their time trying to accumulate things in the earth. What is the seed? The seed are your thoughts. So what you're doing, you're wasting all your thoughts trying to accumulate things as opposed to trying to use your thoughts as seeds to impregnate in order to bring humanity to a place of understanding spirituality.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to add to the masturbation conversation, I think I did this way back when we were in person in South Carolina. When I was in South Carolina, I talk about spirituality and sexuality, and just to summarize what I said about it then, but like masturbation is, it is not evil, and it's not wrong per se in the religious sense of it. However, the thoughts you connect to when you do that, maybe if they are negative, then that itself becomes like a very potentially negative thing in terms of the energy that is produced, in terms of the thoughts that are produced, and what that effect has spiritually and metaphysically. So that said, at a certain point in your spiritual development, you do realize you can't do that because it has an energetic effect on you, and especially for men, and it's a little bit different for women. But because when a male, ejaculates, we are physically losing something. So there's a different sort of slightly different thing happening spiritually and energetically. But as I was saying, at some point in your spiritual development, you realize you can't continue to do that because it does have an energetic spiritual effect. And instead, you learn how to take that energy and draw it upwards within. So to increase your vibration and all kinds of stuff related to what that means spiritually and metaphysically. But yeah, it's the thoughts that we think that contain the sort of potential negative spiritual, metaphysical, and energetic results of any sexual act, basically.
There is a connection, a definite connection between sexuality and spirituality, because it has been reported, talked about, experienced by folk when there is a high level of discussion, when you're highly engaged in spiritual discussions or highly engaged in the presentation of spirituality, it can have a tendency to put you in a state of sexual desire. There is a very thin line between sexuality and spirituality, and you also find that there are a high rate of people in pastoral/teaching positions who don't know how to handle that, and as a result, they end up going amok in when they are in the midst of people, whether it be females or males around them. They don't know how to handle it, and they use it differently. I mean, in a way rather that is more detrimental than it is positive. And you say, well, what about people in religion? Well, keep in mind, religion is perverted spirituality. That's what religion is. And in perverted spirituality, you have perverted results. And those that is something that plays a role as well, because you cannot possibly engage in spiritual intimacy, whether it be through discussion or thought, and not have and deny that it has anything to do with sexuality. Because look at what we talk about. We talk about being pregnant with an understanding of some wisdom that we need to birth. So all of these things are intertwined. And the reason that we tiptoe through things like this, when it comes to masturbation, when it comes to intercourse, when it comes to ED and all those other things, we tiptoe through it because religion has made it something perverted, as opposed to being something that is that is to be a balance of testosterone and estrogen between male and female. The what is it? What word am I looking for? The emotional connection that comes from that, and especially when it comes to the male seed, because the energy of that male seed also has an effect, either positive or negative, on the female, depending on the thoughts and relationship between the two. Why is it that a female who is physically abused drawn to men who physically abuse her? There is an energetic connection between that energy of abuse and the energy that she has grown accustomed to. Why is it that a child who is molested, a male child molested by a male, and this is a real case thing that I had to deal with, a male child molested by a male, and that male child desires, as he got older rather, desired females, but females could not bring him to the place where he felt like he should have been, because he had been accustomed to and he had been conditioned to find his intimate affection from males because of the abuse that he had actually endured. And that type of confusion and pressure results many times in people who are being abused, have been abused, are dying by suicide, or being addicted to drugs, inclusive of alcohol and stuff like that. I'm done.
Pastor, I have a question.
Yep.
So it's not wrong to masturbate, but I think where the problem comes in is when you, like y'all just said, when you keep doing it and you become addicted to it. And why is it that when we talk about sex, and I didn't say love making, I said sex. Why is it when we talk about sex, we have a tendency of giggling? You know, when ladies get together, we giggle, you know, anytime we talk about that. why do we giggle when it comes to that? Is it because it's taboo in the church?
We try to take the edge off it because we don't want to talk about it. We're uncomfortable. We have that uncomfortable giggle.
Well, we have no problem with it. The ladies don't.
No, I'm
But
not.
go
I'm
ahead.
not.
Oh.
Well, ladies do have a problem with it now.
Yeah, just humor is, response to essentially dealing with uncomfortable things. And it's not necessarily like a negative thing that you feel, but it is like, a little bit socially unacceptable on some level to be open with it or speak about it. And we've internalized that sort of feeling and attitude, which is why it makes it funny.
Well, some women, the one I hang out with, we have no problem with it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's an aspect of your question, though, that I want Nick to go back over, Evelyn, because he talked about the spiritual aspect of it. There's nothing wrong with it per se, or harm you in a physical way, but spiritually, he made a connection that I really wouldn't want us to miss, or anybody else that that are hearing this conversation. Nick, what did you say again?
I said at some point during your spiritual development, you realize you should not, especially, well, I'm speaking in particular for men. At some point, you should stop masturbating because you cannot develop a certain vibration if you essentially waste it physically like that. So
Okay. So that's primarily for men, though.
Yeah, and it works. It's a little bit similar for women, but like I said, because men are physically losing something, it has like a bigger impact on us potentially, energetically and spiritually. Now, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. That makes sense, y'all? Evelyn?
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Um,
Oh,
Well, Pastor was going to say something, though.
No, I'm good.
what was
Okay.
I sort of remembered the other thing I wanted to say. So there is all all things in moderation. That applies to everything, so that you don't become addicted to or burn out on a particular physical sensation or experience or mindset or whatever. As it relates to sex, it's the same thing. All things in moderation. Be aware uh, of your own intent and desire behind whatever it is you do. And generally, and just keep it positive, in terms of what you think, and then all things in moderation. And then on top of that, realize that you will be required to develop discipline, sexually speaking, in order to progress spiritually. And so it just depends on, the point at which you want to stop being an adolescent, stop being a spiritual juvenile, and, the royal you in terms of society overall. It's a, like we were talking about going through puberty or something. That's going through becoming a spiritual adult is learning how to use that energy intentionally for spiritual and energetic purposes, as opposed to just physical pleasure. And it greatly depends on the person. I think it greatly depends on the nature of the thoughts, etc. But there is a component related to your as a man, your semen, as a thing that actually, I believe this is the case, extends your life. So, as I said, it varies greatly from person to person, but if you are able to move that, sort of take that desire for a sort of physical or emotional satisfaction or whatever, and increase its, or raise its vibration, spiritually speaking. So you take that desire and intent and you turn it towards your own spiritual development and evolution and dealing with yourself internally, then that has the effect of quite literally increasing your capacity to live longer, because it, in a sense, helps with the process of cleansing, healing, and balancing the nature of your energetic and spiritual self, as opposed to that intention sort of being wasted in the pursuit of, temporary physical sensation. So I don't mean to say that masturbation, if you're a male, will decrease your lifespan, but I sort of kind of do. It would be very subtle, I think, in most cases. But it just has to do with the nature of the energy and vibration that is involved with what that is and how it's used. Anyway, thank you.
I have another question, kind of take us in a different way, for kind of sort of. There is a fact that testosterone in a male, and we talked about this a few minutes ago, starts to decrease around the age of 40, but estrogen starts to increase. Uh, Looking at that from a spiritual perspective, what's the first thing you think of about that? What does that mean? Is that, or have you given that some thought?
I'll respond to that.
Okay.
If you give it some thought, what do you think about? People, males in particular, can be it's very difficult to keep males in a religious setting, number one. Number two, males are generally selfish, especially in a male-dominated society. However, the older a male gets, the more he begins to think more clearly. He become more wiser, and the things that he thought were important, he began to see that they are no longer important. So, and also he begins to develop a stronger affinity for either religion, which he thinks is spiritual, or spirituality itself. But he develops a stronger affinity for that, and that is because of the increase rather of estrogen in his body. That in itself is inextricably tied to the reality that Shekinah spirituality spirit is indeed feminine. And it doesn't matter whether it's perverted spirit or not, it's still feminine. You cannot make spirit masculine, even in religion. It is perverted feminism, perverted energy that we have sought to masquerade as being masculine. So that generational period of 40 years speaks to that male get into a greater place. Get into a place rather where he pays more attention to his spiritual essence. Nature, whether it be religion or whatever. I hope you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So you could not.
Pastor, so can I ask a question?
Yep.
So you saying when y'all ready to go to sleep, we ready to go. We ready to get it on.
So
anybody else have a question?
I was going to say that's why you could not start studying Kabbalah until you were 40 years old, because that is
right.
the you're done with all the juvenile stuff, hopefully by age 40, and you begin to return to the mindset and the state of awareness that allows you to interface with those things. Now, the truth is you do not have to wait till 40, but that's the energy principle behind it.
40 years in the wilderness.
Yep.
40 days and 40 nights. The number 40 plays a very prevalent role, especially when it is talking about masculinity. Moses, Jesus, masculinity. When it speaks of 40 is usually attached to events that involves masculinity as opposed to femininity.
So was I correct? If I'm not, correct me, please.
Well, I'll remember I was saying about so okay, as a man, if you are like you have sex and you are extremely tired, you instantly fall asleep after that. Remember, I was saying there's a connection between that energy and that vibration and your lifespan. Now,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I want to
Okay.
speak to the
Um,
sleep thing.
oh yeah. So if you well, first of all, most people are not in that great shape anyway. So as a man during sex, if you're doing most of the work physically, you're about to fall asleep right after. But the energy and the vibration that you expend um, it increases that potential to be super tired. And that is because you have, on a spiritual and energetic level, released or given away quite your life force. And if it is not already sort of built up strongly within you, etc., that could it just increases that feeling of fatigue because you have given away the energy that sustains you. So all that is related to that.
A male is no different than a lion, a male lion. A male lion, every few moments, he rests. Why? Because when a male in your sperm is a chemical that puts you to sleep, that makes you sleepy. And after you ejaculate, that is a normal process of going to sleep. If you study the male lion, what you will see is that every 10 minutes during mating season, he engaged in intercourse and goes right back to sleep as soon as he finishes and wakes up and repeats it all over again on during the mating season.
And the sleep,
Thank you guys for answering my question.
you are welcome. And think about it. What happens when you go to sleep? Your spirit refreshes,
Every time.
and it essentially attempts to reabsorb the energy that it just lost, especially if you're a man. Which is why, and that's why if you everyone's probably heard of that term tantra or tantric coming out of Eastern spirituality as it relates to sex. As a man, you are not supposed to ejaculate because you are supposed to learn how to retain that energy vibration. Thank you.
The I'm not that whatever that is, tundra. No. However, uh, that is one of the problems with it when we talked about earlier male intercourse and how males are unable to perform for a period of time. And a lot of males, especially young males, are 15, 20, 10, 15 minutes. And that's out of selfishness. It's looking for self-gratification. And once you get to the point of self-gratification, there is no concern for the partner that's involved in this. And I would tell anybody that I do believe that males are taught in a way by society to be more selfish than females are. Extremely selfish. And that in every part of your life, that selfishness is seen. So why would it not show up in that portion of your life when it comes to intimacy?
Any questions, anyone?
I don't think I have any more. Not right now.
Well, you guys ready to pause then till tomorrow?
Sure.
Anything else?
Ron, didn't you have a question or something different too? Or did we do
Yeah,
it?
I did when I talked about the 40 years old and the body changing the
Oh,
chemicals that
okay.
it produces. Yeah, I knew that meant something. I just didn't know what. Yeah, but thank you.
Okay. All right.
I
Okay.
was curious about what Pastor was going to say about ancestral veneration and libation. Are we holding till tomorrow, sir?
Yeah, we can do it tomorrow because it's going to take more time than we have expended already.
Okay.
It's probably going to take about an hour plus with that, Regina. So we'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Great discussion once again. Look forward to
Thank you.
tomorrow morning.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
guys.
day.
See you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Have a good day.